Recently, a relative of mine was rather proudly recounting to me how he got cited for a minor traffic infraction, and then he went through this elaborate process of proving it wrong in court and then getting it overturned. And he was so proud because he felt like he won, in quotes, against the cop that cited him. And I thought that was a little ridiculous and petty, but then I looked inwards and I realized that I myself am guilty of wanting to win, in quotes, against other people and kind of competing against them and feeling like I've beaten them if I somehow emerged victorious or better off than them. And so in this video, I want to talk through why that's problematic, and what I propose the solution is to illustrate why competition can go from healthy to unhealthy if it's just based on petty reasons like that. So there are many reasons why this is problematic. The first of which is that winning is always just a matter of perception. And if you're being petty, then sort of a prerequisite for you to get the satisfaction you want is for the other person to see things the same way that you see them, to kind of admit that you won for the same reasons that you say you did. And there's no obligation for them to do that, and you can't control that. So my relative in that example could argue that they won because they got the citation overturned, but then the cop could easily turn around and say, no, I won instead because I had control over you for those few minutes and I still made you go through that elaborate effort to get that overturned. And in a way, you're also kind of playing into people's hands and giving them what they want if you care so much about what they think. People are going to look at that and say, okay, now I can have an effect on you, so I'm just going to keep coming back for more and try to get one up on you to get a reaction out of you. So you're kind of doing more harm than good in that case. And that's not even the worst case scenario, because usually people don't even care. They don't have the willingness, much less do they have the ability. They could just be too stupid, flat out, to be able to wage petty psychological warfare with you. And yet here you are still getting very tightly wound around the axle about it, while they just go home at the end of the day and they just stop caring and they probably forget that you exist. And so now you're just wasting your own time, you're stressing yourself out because you want to win really badly, and it's kind of like showing up to a boxing match and getting really pumped up for it, while not only does your opponent not show up, but no audience members show up either. You're just the only one there. And so what's really the point of that? And then not to mention, sometimes you will win, and I certainly have had those experiences where I felt like I could actually give myself the victory and say, yeah, I've won. I'm better than other people at this certain thing. But then in that case, nothing really changes. It's just kind of anticlimactic. You know, nobody hands you a trophy or anything like that. And you're just kind of left with a question of, what are you going to do with that information now? And the answer really is nothing. So I propose then that there are at least two things you can do to solve the problem, one of which is to just quite simply not care and kind of turn the tables on them so that they're the ones getting really wrapped around the axle while you just don't think twice about it and you go find better things to do with your time. Because the truth is, you do have better things to do. And then if they want to bring it to your attention, then you can just adopt sort of that patronizing attitude of, oh, you won? Good for you. I'm really proud of you, and give them sort of that pat on the back. But the other part of this is focus more on yourself than anybody else and ask yourself what you need to do to be better off and how you can improve yourself. So in other words, instead of competing with everybody else, compete with yourself and see what you can do to get to a better position from where you started. So for example, like I've talked about before, I used to have your stereotypical bad boss, and then I got a better job and I moved on and I was happier with that job. But I looked at it in the beginning as, you know, I won because I beat my former boss and I was in a better position with better pay and they no longer had control over me. But then, like I mentioned, it was just unsatisfying for me. It didn't do much for me to look at it that way. And not to mention, I probably cared a lot more about it than they did. They probably just forgot about me as soon as I left. So instead, I looked at it as, I have a new job, I'm better off because of it, I'm happier with it, and I'm gonna look to the future now. End of story. And as a result, it was much less stressful and much less time consuming for me. Now, I do acknowledge, however, that there is such a thing as healthy competition, and I fully endorse that because I believe that's what pushes us to become better scholars, better athletes, better individuals. But instead, I'm just saying that the focus should be to improve yourself and your team, if applicable, rather than looking to bring somebody else down, get one up on them, and care so much about what they think. So let me know what you think. I hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next video.